Okay. Let me do my screen share here. Alrighty, so under week 1, if you have not registered for the CyberQ lab, you can register for that. It's just registering for my class. Whether you have gotten the materials or not, I have 3 people that haven't registered for it. Please do that. Registration closes on Saturday. Please get that done ASAP. And I will actually, I didn't look to see who was and wasn't. I just saw that there were 8 out of 11 people, and I can look at that later, but I haven't had a chance to look at specific names. This is the reading, and as you can see, I have bumped it out to next week. So next week looks like a nightmare, but you do have extra time, and we will adjust and kind of eke things out here and there as we need to, because we've had we had a short week, we had a snow day, we had stuff that was shipped out, so don't worry about it. The only thing that is due is this Google printing lab right here, and I will walk through how to do that at the end of our lecture, okay? That's super easy. It's just kind of showing how easy it is to footprint people, and so you can see exactly what you have out there. Okay, so we are doing Module 1, Introduction to Ethical Hacking. Can you guys see that screen? The EC Council Intro Ethical Hacking, does that show up okay? All right, it doesn't let me, it's kind of irritating. It doesn't let me full screen just the slide. So hopefully you guys can read that okay. All right. So let me minimize this so I can actually see some stuff. Okay, so we're just going to go ahead and start in on this. The learning objectives for this particular module are to explain information security concepts, explain hacking methodologies and frameworks, explain hacking concepts and different hacker classes, explain ethical hacking concepts and scope, summarize techniques used in information security controls, and explain the importance of applicable security laws and standards. So you remember how we went through a lot of this, you'll see a lot of repetition on some of this stuff, but in this class, we'll actually go a little more in depth. We'll drill down a little bit more on each of these concepts. So for the section 1, elements of information security. Now, these slides, like I said, are not out there right now, but they will be after class. You will see you guys can see just fine when I flip between tabs on Google, right? Yay, nay? You can see the tabs? Okay. All right. So I will put them in course documents. You will see, you see that course slides, images of slides coming soon. It will be right there. And I will just put each, will just be images, and it's not a PowerPoint really, they're just images, but you'll be able to go into module 1, module 2, whatever on there, and you'll be able to see those. Okay, so elements of information security. Information security is a state of well-being, or a baseline if you want to call it that, of information and infrastructure in which the possibility of theft, tampering, and disruption of information and services is low or tolerable. So remember us talking about the CIA triad and all that stuff. So confidentiality, assurance that the information is accessible only to those authorized to have access, integrity, the trustworthiness of data or resources in terms of preventing improper or unauthorized changes, availability, assurance that the systems responsible for delivering, storing, and processing information are accessible when required by authorized users. Authenticity refers to the characteristic of a communication, a document, or any data that ensures the quality of being genuine. Non-repudiation. So you remember us talking about this. This is a guarantee that the sender of a message cannot later deny having sent the message, and that the recipient cannot deny having received the message. All right, motives, goals, and objectives. Yes, there are objections, but objectives of information security attacks. So an attack is a motive or goal plus method plus a vulnerability. The motive originates out of the notion that the target system stores or processes something that is considered valuable, and this leads to the threat of an attack on the system. The attackers try various tools and attack techniques to exploit vulnerabilities in a computer system or its security policy and controls in order to fulfill their motives. And here's a list of motives behind information security attacks: disrupting business continuity, stealing information and manipulating data, creating fear and chaos by disrupting critical infrastructure, causing financial loss to the target, propagating religious or political beliefs, achieving a state's military objectives, damaging the reputation of the target, taking revenge, or demanding ransom.
They're also just missing because some people want to see if they can.
Yeah, there is a whole section of hackers that are just people that are bored and are like, can I do this? Yes, those are actually the type of people that they try to pull in as white hat hackers, so they can say, hey, if you want to see if you can do this, why not do it legally? So that's why they have a lot of programs like ours where they try to pull people in and say, hey, why not get these tools and stuff and not get in trouble for it.
Officially, Mike, that would never happen.
Yeah, officially, yeah. I would like to say not often, but actually it's more common than you would think. A lot of corporations actually hire people and have entire sections that's pretty much all they do. But they are not officially listed as that. So grain of salt. And it's that whole, you can't, yeah, it's that whole alleged misuse type thing. So it just depends on if they get caught doing it later and things like that. All right, classification of attacks. So passive attacks, these are attacks that do not tamper with the data and involve intercepting and monitoring network traffic and data flow on target network. Examples include sniffing and eavesdropping. Active attacks are when you actually tamper with the data in transit, or you disrupt communications or services between the systems to bypass or break into secured systems. So like your DOS, DDoS, man-in-the-middle, session hijacking, and SQL injection. Close-in attack are performed when an attacker is in close physical proximity with the target system or network in order to gather, modify, or disrupt access to information. Examples include social engineering, like eavesdropping, shoulder surfing, and dumpster diving. Insider attacks, we've talked about this before. These are the ones where they use their privileged access to violate rules or intentionally cause a threat to the organization's information and information systems. So theft of physical devices, planting keyloggers, backdoors, malware, things like that. Distribution attacks occur when attackers tamper with hardware or software prior to installation. Attackers tamper with the hardware or software at its source or installation. I don't know if any of you remember, I can't tell you the exact date, but there was an issue, I want to say it was Lenovo. They actually had someone get in and pre-install malware on their hardware before it was shipped out. It was several years ago. And that's just an example of some of the things that can happen. There have been times where they get in and put that in code. It can happen in all sorts of things. Yeah, especially with mobile devices, it's a lot easier to do that in mobile devices than it is some of the other stuff.
So
Information warfare. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
would all the issues that keep popping up with like more and more recently with the Microsoft 10, like the recent updates, trying to push you to go for 11, would those count as distribution attacks, or would that be, I'm just
No,
thinking because like
that's more bloatware and things like that. An actual attack would be if someone had gotten into the code and during that push, they had also written in some code that's when you upgraded it dumped malware in there with it, would be an example of that.
all right, makes sense. Thank you.
Uh-huh. Okay, information warfare. This is the term uh, that refers to the use of information and communication technologies to gain competitive advantages over an opponent. A lot of times this is done with you see this, it's listed as warfare, so it's usually you see this done with like between governments. So defensive information warfare, this refers to all strategies and actions I am doing great today. Designed to defend against attacks on ITC assets. Offensive information warfare refers to information warfare that involves attacks against the ICT assets of an opponent. Okay, you see I have a nice little thing down here. Defensive is prevention, deterrence, alerts, detection, emergency preparedness, and response. And offensive, you have your web app attacks, web server attacks, malware, MITM attacks, and system hacking. Information warfare is a big thing now. It's come a long way in the last 10, 15 years. Yeah, places like Iran, China, North Korea, Russia have
I mean,
entire sections within their military that's just all they do.
we just saw the biggest offensive use of it in recorded history with the way they basically shut down Ukraine before they
Yeah,
moved right in.
exactly. Yeah, the use of it against Ukraine that is an excellent point. What they did in Ukraine it was 100% that was information warfare.
So I actually do a little bit of information warfare as my job in the Navy, but mine's more of the radar and the collection side though.
Mm-hmm. Okay, section 2, explaining hacking methodologies and frameworks. So this is CHM, and you can see this is the CEH hacking methodology. So you see, I will say these are really good if you're going to be studying for the CEH exam. I used a lot of these graphics when I did a lot of that. So these go down in order. So you have footprinting, scanning, enumeration, vulnerability analysis, and then you go over to system hacking. Okay. And then under system hacking, you have your gaining access, where you crack the password and do vulnerability exploitation. And then once you do that, you escalate privileges. And then once you get those privileges escalated, what do you want to do? You want to be able to maintain your access so that you don't just get booted out. So you do executing applications, you hide your files, you do things like that. And then when you've done that, you want to make sure that you don't have any tracks left so that people like forensic accountants or things like that can't come in and backtrack to find you. So you want to do things like clearing your logs out. We should go over enumeration here. Hopefully it actually tells you what, of course it doesn't. That would be easy. I'm gonna get you the definition. I'm not particularly good at there you go. Extraction. That's what I was trying to remember the name of. Basically, you just go in and you enumeration is you get everything and then you pull it out. That's kind of the easiest way to think of it. So machine names, share names, directory names, like it says here, That's enumeration. Wrong one. So you footprint, you scan, enumeration. So after you scan and you find, okay, this is where we find all that, then you pull out the information and then you look for vulnerabilities. Does that make sense? Okay. All right. I always found this one fascinating. This is the cyber kill chain methodology. So this methodology is a component of intelligence-driven defense for the identification and prevention of malicious intrusion activities. It provides greater insight into the attack phases, which helps security professionals to understand adversaries' tactics, techniques, and procedures beforehand. So at first, you have your reconnaissance. And I will tell you one thing that people do a lot of the time, they do not do proper reconnaissance. Slow down, take your time, do your reconnaissance first. Gather your data on the target, probe for weak points. If you do more time in reconnaissance, it will save you the amount of time that you have to do to cover your tracks and having to do an emergency when you have to do other things later. Create a deliverable malicious payload using an exploit and a backdoor. That's weaponize. Delivery, send weaponized bundle to the victim using email, USB, etc. Exploit a vulnerability by executing code on the victim's system, exploitation. Installation is install your malware on the target system. Create a command and control channel to communicate and pass data back and forth. That's your command and control. And actions on objectives, perform actions to achieve intended objectives or goals. So say through this whole thing, you want to see what kind of information this organization has stored within, let's say, their SQL database. That would be one of your goals, your objectives and goals. That's just an example. A lot of times it can be other things. Tactics, techniques, and procedures, or TTPs. So tactics, techniques, and procedures refers to a pattern of activities and methods associated with specific threat actors or groups of threat actors. So tactics are the guidelines that describe the way an attacker performs the attack from beginning to end. And those of you in military should understand this one. In fact, a lot of these should seem familiar because a lot of them do come from that. This guideline consists of the various tactics for information gathering to perform initial exploitation, privilege escalation, and lateral movement, and to deploy measures for persistent access to the system and other purposes. Techniques are the technical methods used by an attacker to achieve intermediate results during the attack. These techniques include initial exploitation, setting up and maintaining command and control channels, accessing the target infrastructure, covering the tracks of data exfiltration, and others. And then procedures are organizational approaches that threat actors follow to launch an attack. The number of actions usually differs depending on the objectives of the procedure and threat actor groups. So remember me talking about those state-sponsored threat actor groups? They're going to have a much larger amount of actions and procedures than you would with someone who's just after something simple. Okay, the MITRE ATT&CK framework. So this is a globally accessible knowledge base of adversary tactics and techniques based on real-world observations. The attack knowledge base is used as a foundation for the development of specific threat models and methodologies in the private sector, government, and the cybersecurity product and service community. The 14 tactic categories within attack for enterprise are derived of the later stages exploit, control, maintain, and execute of the 7 stages of your cyber kill chain. So pre-attack, recon, weaponize, and then the enterprise attack, deliver, exploit, control, execute, and maintain. And these are just different ones that are the most commonly used. Then there's the diamond model of intrusion analysis. This model offers a framework for identifying the cluster of events that are correlated on any of the systems in an organization. It can control the vital atomic elements occurring in any intrusion activity, which is referred to as the diamond event. Using this model, efficient mitigation approaches can be developed and analytic efficiency can be increased. Okay, so there's 4 things, which is why it's called a diamond. You have your adversary, your opponent who was behind the attack, your victim, the target that has been exploited or where the attack was performed, capability, the attack strategies or how the attack was performed, and infrastructure, what the adversary used to reach the victim. And as you can see, they have it all mapped out here in your nice little diamond model. Okay. Section 3. Explaining hacking concepts and different hacker classes. Now this one should be, you should see a lot of familiar stuff here. So hacking refers to exploiting system vulnerabilities and compromising security controls to gain unauthorized or inappropriate access to a system's resource. It involves modifying system or application features to achieve a goal outside of the creator's original purpose. Hacking can be used to steal and redistribute intellectual property, leading to business loss. Who is a hacker? This is an intelligent individual with excellent computer skills who can create and explore computer software and hardware. For some hackers, hacking is a hobby to see how many computers or networks they can compromise. Some hackers' intentions can either be to gain knowledge or to probe and do illegal things. Some hack with malicious intent, such as to steal business data, credit cards information, social security numbers, email, passwords, and other sensitive data. And our hacker classes, which we've gone over before. Black hat, individual with extraordinary computer skill. They resort to malicious or destructive activities and are also known as crackers. White hats, individuals who use their professed hacking skills for defensive purposes and are also known as security analysts. They have permission from the system owners. Gray hats are individuals who work both offensive and defensive at various times. Suicide hackers are individuals who aim to bring down critical infrastructure for a cause and are not worried about facing jail terms or any other kinds of punishment. Script kiddies, which are my personal irritation. I do not like script kiddies. Unskilled hackers who compromise a system by running scripts, tools, and software that were developed by real hackers. They have no idea what they're doing. Cyber terrorists, individuals with a wide range of skills who are motivated by religious or political beliefs to create fear through large-scale disruption of computer networks. State-sponsored hackers, these are individuals employed by a government to penetrate and gain top-secret information from and do damage to information systems of other governments. And then hacktivists, individuals who promote a political agenda by hacking, especially by using hacking to deface or disable websites. Did I see what is the difference between number 4 and number 8 is number 8, they actually care. No, don't be a jerk, Kat. They actually care about their punishment. Number 4 does not. A lot of the times hacktivists will do stuff and their group might take responsibility, but they are attempting to avoid punishment individually. Whereas a suicide hacker is kind of like a suicide bomber. That's why they call them that. they will go out and put their name all over everything, and they don't care if they end up in jail.
Fanatics versus criminals.
Exactly. All right. Hacker teams. These are hacker classes continued. Consortium of skilled hackers having their own resources and funding. They work together in synergy for research of state-of-the-art technologies. Industrial spies are individuals who perform corporate espionage by illegally spying on competitor organizations and focus on stealing informations like blueprints and formulas. Insiders, any trusted person who has access to critical assets of an organization. They use privileged access to violate rules or intentionally cause harm to the organization's information system. Criminal syndicates are groups of individuals that are involved in organized, planned, and prolonged criminal activities. They illegally embezzle money by performing sophisticated cyber attacks. And then there are organized hackers, miscreants, or hardened criminals who use rented devices or botnets to perform various cyber attacks to pilfer money from victims. Very nice. Yes. The Krabby Patty formula. All right. Explain ethical hacking concepts and scope. So what is ethical hacking? So ethical hacking involves the use of hacking tools, tricks, techniques to identify vulnerabilities and ensure system security. It focuses on simulating, and there's the key word there, simulating techniques used by attackers to verify the existence of exploitable vulnerabilities in a system's security. Ethical hackers perform security assessments for an organization with the permission of the concerned authorities. That is a huge thing. Always make sure that you have permission, written, backed up permission, so that if you are out testing things and someone doesn't realize that you're working for them and you get in trouble, you can point to your piece of paper or what have you. Then you can say, look, here's my permission, because there are times where it can go very badly if you do not.
Sir, this is written in crayon.
Yeah. Yeah, if you go, sorry, this is crayon and this is not notarized, you're going to jail. So yeah. Why is it necessary? To beat a hacker, you have to think like one. Ethical hacking is necessary as it allows for counterattacks against malicious hackers through anticipating the methods used to break into the system. So reasons why organizations recruit ethical hackers: to prevent hackers from gaining access to organizations' information systems, to uncover vulnerabilities in systems and explore their potential as security risk, to analyze and strengthen the organization's security posture, including policies, network protection, infrastructure, and end user practices, to provide adequate preventative measures in order to avoid security breaches, to help safeguard customer data, and to enhance security awareness at all levels in a business. Ethical hackers try to answer the following questions. What can an intruder see on a target system? This is your reconnaissance and scanning phases. What can an intruder do with that information? Gaining access and maintaining access phase. Does anyone at the target organization notice the intruder's attempt or success? That's your reconnaissance and covering tracks phase. Are all components of the information system adequately protected, updated, and patched? How much time, effort, and money are required to obtain adequate protection? Are information security measures in compliance with legal and industry standards? Okay, so these are two very important concepts: the scope and the limitations. So a scope is in ethical hacking is a crucial component of risk assessment, auditing, counter fraud, and information system security best practices. It is used to identify risks and highlight remedial actions. It also reduces ICT costs by resolving vulnerabilities. Limitations, unless the businesses already know what they are looking for and why they are hiring an outside vendor to hack the system in the first place, chances are there would not be much to gain from the experience. An ethical hacker can only help the organization to better understand its security system. It is up to the organization to place the right safeguards on the network. Right, skills of an ethical hacker, technical skills. In-depth knowledge of major operating environments, Windows, Unix, Linux, Macintosh. In-depth knowledge of networking concepts, technologies, and related hardware and software. Computer expert, adept in technological domains. Knowledge about security areas and related issues. High technical knowledge for launching sophisticated attacks. Non-technical skills, the ability to learn and adopt new technologies quickly. That is a huge one. I don't know how many people that I've talked to that are hiring managers that say you have to have this ability and we would rather be able to train you in everything else. But if you're not willing to do this, none of the rest of it matters. Strong work ethics and good problem solving and communication skills. Again, that's another big one. Committed to the organization's security policies and awareness of local standards and laws. Not just local. When you think about it, you have to deal with local, state, national, international.
What do you mean? Our national policies would obviously work because we would have the most stringent policies for America.
Yes. We're so stringent, most stringent of all policies in all of the, yeah, no. A lot of the times the policies are made by people who do not understand anything that has to do with technology. If you ever want an example, go look at some of the House committees interviewing, like, for example, Facebook and things like that. And it becomes fairly clear.
Watch the ghost gun video.
I don't think I've seen that, but
in Discord, I actually posted a video, like a little news article recently, how I think it was South Korea, their information computer person, their cybersecurity awareness person, apparently did not like to use computers a whole lot and did not know some simple terms like a USB.
Yeah, it's surprising when you see there are all
They
sorts
have
of things
interns
can
for that.
slip through the crack. So
There's one, and it's a senator giving I think he was from California, and he was holding up like an AR-15, and he was talking about how it was a assault rifle 15, and it was a ghost gun, and it had like a assault stock and an expanded magazine and all this stuff, and it was hilarious.
oh my goodness. Yeah, so that's kind of the same kind of thing. People like to talk about stuff they don't know anything about. Okay, before we get on the
Hey,
tirade.
Nick's seen the video, fully semi-automatic.
All right, next, summarize the techniques used in information security controls, information assurance. This refers to the assurance that integrity, availability, confidentiality, and authenticity of information and information systems is protected during uses, processing, storage, and transmission of information. Some of the processes that help in achieving information assurance are developing a local policy process and guidance, designing network and user authentication strategies, identifying network vulnerabilities and threats, identifying problem and resource requirements, creating plans for identified resource requirements, applying appropriate information assurance controls, performing certification and accreditation, and providing information assurance training. Continual adaptive security strategies. Organizations should adopt adaptive security strategy, which involves implementing all the 4 network security approaches. The adaptive security strategy consists of 4 activities corresponding to each security approach. So, and as you can see, it's cyclical. So protect, defense in-depth security strategy, protect endpoints, protect network, protect data. Then it leads to detect, which is continuous threat monitoring. Response, that's our incident response. And predict, risk and vulnerability assessment, attack surface analysis, and threat intelligence. And again, it just cycles back into the other in order to continually fix each section as new threats arise. Defense in depth, we've talked about this a couple times. Defense in depth is a security strategy in which several protection layers are placed throughout an information system. It helps prevent direct attacks against the system and its data because a break in one layer only leads the attacker to another layer. So this is just an example. You have your data in the end. Policies, procedures, and awareness is one layer, physical layer, perimeter, internal network, host, application. And so they have all of these layers that they have to even get through to get to data. What is a risk? Okay, so remember we went through all the risk matrices and things like this. This is just a compressed version of this. Risk refers to the degree of uncertainty or expectation that an adverse event may cause damage to the system. Risk are categorized into different levels according to their estimated impact on the system. A risk matrix is used to scale risk by considering probability, likelihood, and consequence or importance of the risk. So you have your risk levels, extreme or high, medium or low, and then your risk matrix. You have your likelihood, insignificant, minor, moderate, major, and severe. And as you can see, they just taper upwards from that. Risk management is the process of reducing and maintaining risk at an acceptable level by means of well-defined and actively employed security program. There is no such thing as having zero risk. That's one of those, yes, you can have zero risk when you're dead. There's no such thing as zero risk. Risk identification, identify the source, causes, consequences, and other details of the internal and external risks affecting the security of the organization. Risk assessment assesses the organization's risk and provides an estimate of the likelihood or impact of the risk. Risk treatment selects and implements appropriate controls for the identified risk. Risk tracking ensures appropriate controls are implemented to handle known risks and calculates the chances of a new risk occurring. Risk review evaluates the performance of the implemented risk management strategies. Sorry, this has got quite a bit in here. Cyber threat intelligence, or CTI, is defined as the collection and analysis of information about threats and adversaries, the drawing of patterns that provide the ability to make knowledgeable decisions for preparedness, prevention, and response actions against various cyber attacks. Cyber threat intelligence helps the organization to identify and mitigate various business risks by converting unknown threats into known threats. It helps in implementing various advanced and proactive defense strategies. So there are types of threat intelligence. There's strategic, tactical, operational, and technical. And you can see you have the high level, low level, and then you have the long-term, short-term, or immediate. So strategic is high level information on changing risks consumed by high level executives and management. Tactical information is information on attackers' TTPs, consumed by IT service and SOC managers and administrators. Operational information on specific incoming attacks, consumed by security managers and network defenders. Technical information on specific indicators of compromise, concerned by SOC staff and IR teams. SOC is Secured Operating Center, IR is Incident Response. Threat intelligence life cycle. Okay, this one I will tell you is very important. I've seen this quite a few times. Planning and direction. And like most things when it comes to CEH, a lot of them are just part of a cycle that repeats. Define intelligence requirements, make collection plan, form an intelligence team, send requests for data collection, plan and set requirements for other phases, collect required data that satisfies intelligent goals. Collection sources include OSINT, human OS intelligence, human intelligence, IMNT, and mass intelligence. Processing and exploitation, process raw data for exploitation, convert processed data into usable format for data analytics, analysis and production, combine information from phase 3 into a single entity, include fact findings and forecasts. Analysis should be objective, timely, accurate, and actionable, and perform confidence-based analysis. And then lastly, disseminate and integrate. Deliver the intelligence to the intended consumers at different levels. So you have your strategic, tactical, operational, and technical areas that it needs to be done to, and then it just goes back into the life cycle and away you go for the next section. I think that's measurement and signal intelligence. Detect, track, quantitative and qualitative analysis of data, looks like. So, yeah, they seem rather fond of acronyms on here, so apologize for that, but I think they're just trying to cram as much as possible into some of these slides. Threat modeling. Threat modeling is a risk assessment approach for analyzing the security of an application by capturing, organizing, and analyzing all the information that affects the security of an application. So this one lists it out into 5 sections. You have identify security objectives, help determine how much effort needs to be put towards subsequent steps. Application overview, identify the components, data flows, and trust boundaries. Decompose the application, helps define more relevant and more detailed threats. Identify threats to the control scenario and context using information obtained in steps 2 and 3. Identify vulnerabilities. You identify weaknesses related to threats found using vulnerability categories. Incident management. Now, this is a really nice little table that explains incident management. It's a set of defined processes to identify, analyze, prioritize, and resolve security incidents. Now, remember, this section is just basically an overview of everything. And we will be going into this stuff more in detail as we go through. So again, fire hose, I apologize. That's just kind of how this is. But it does have some really good slides with like this incident management slide. So you have your vulnerability handling, artifact handling, announcements, alerts, and then inside incident handling, you have triage, incident response, reporting and detection and analysis, and then you have other incident management services. Yeah, I know. I was going to see if I could cram another section in, but we're not even all the way to the end of this one, and my brain's hurting. So I think it would just be punishment at this point. I think I'm probably going to stretch out some of the other sections and do like half of some of them over there, because otherwise you'll have like 5 on 1 week, and I just think that's too much. Incident handling and response. It's actually a really fun thing to do if you get a good incident handling and response team. IH&R is the process of taking organized and careful steps when reacting to security incidents or a cyber attack. So prep, incident recording and assignment, incident triage, notification, containment. You cannot say, if we hadn't done proper containment on one of the big ones that I worked on, it would have gotten the entire district instead of one building. And containment is very important. Evidence gathering and forensic analysis, eradication, recovery, and then post-incident activities. You have your incident documentation, incident impact assessment, review and revise policies, and you close your investigation and incident disclosure. Now, I like to think of this one as a bit like the other ones with your cyclic and your post-incident activities feeding into your next prep, because you use the insights and things from your post-incident activities to refine for your next incident, or at least a good incident handling team should do that. Role of AI and ML in cybersecurity. Machine learning and artificial intelligence are now vastly used across various industries and applications due to the increase in computing power, data collection, and storage capabilities. And it's not going away. It's just going to skyrocket. Machine learning is an unsupervised self-learning system that is used to define what the normal network looks like along with its devices, and then to backtrack and report any deviations or anomalies in real time. AI and ML in cybersecurity help to identify new exploits and weaknesses, which can then be easily analyzed to mitigate further attacks. So ML classification techniques are supervised learning, makes use of algorithms that input a set of labeled training data with the aim of learning the differences between the labels. Unsupervised learning makes use of algorithms that input unlabeled training data with the aim of deducing the categories by itself. And you have your little table over here for machine learning that shows your unsupervised versus supervised. So with unsupervised, dimensional reality reduction and clustering, and supervised classification and regression. So how do these prevent cyber attacks? Password protection and authentication, phishing detection and prevention, threat detection, vulnerability management, behavioral analytics. That is where I have seen some amazing stuff when it comes to AI and machine learning, because it can analyze things way faster than a person can. And as long as you have some good steps put in there for it, it can see things very quickly. Network security, AI-based antivirus, another area that's really cool. Fraud detection, botnet detection, and AI to combat AI threats. Okay, I think this is the last. Yep, this is the last section of this module. Explain the importance of applicable security laws and standards. Now, as I'm sure some of you has figured out because of where I used to work and what my master's was in, I have a lot of background with security laws and standards. Oh good, they actually put them all in here. And I will tell you, if you're doing the actual certification exam, yes, you actually do need to know what these are called. So PCI DSS is the Payment Card Industry Data Security Standard. I used flashcards to learn these. This is a proprietary information security standard for organizations that handle cardholder information for major debit, credit card, prepaid, e-purse, ATM, and point-of-sale cards. It applies to all entities involved in payment card processing, like merchants, processors, acquirers, issuers, service providers, as well as any other entities that store, process, or transmit cardholder data. Think about how many of those are involved in online anything now. So PCI DSS is a big thing. So this is the high-level overview. You build and maintain a secure network, protect cardholder data, maintain a vulnerability management program, implement strong access control measures, regularly monitor and test networks, maintain an information security policy. And then here's our little bottom thing. Failure to meet these requirements may result, there is no may, it will result in fines or termination of payment card processing privileges. That last bit there is really the big threat for businesses, because the fines can be bad, but for them to fine you and say, by the way, you can no longer use payment card processing services, can just flat out kill your business. So that's where a lot of their teeth comes from. ISO and IEC. Okay, there's a whole bunch of different ISO. This is 2701, 2013. There's a whole bunch of different ones, but this one specifies the requirements for establishing, implementing, maintaining, and continually improving information security management systems within the context of an organization. It's intended to be suitable for several different types of use, including use within organizations to formulate security requirements and objectives. Usually when people talk about this, they just say ISO 27001. Just sometimes if they will actually put the whole thing in for a test, you want to know the whole thing. But a lot of times when you're doing like a resume or something, they just do that first part. Use within organizations to ensure that security risks are cost effectively managed. Use within organizations to ensure compliance with laws and regulations. Definition of new information security management processes. Identification and clarification of existing information security management processes. Use by organization management to determine the status of information security management activities. Supplementation of business enabling information security, and use by organizations to provide relevant information about information security customers. HIPAA. This one is Health Records, Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. So the Administrative Simplification Statute and Rules, the Electronic Transactions and Code Set Standards require every provider who does business electronically to use the same healthcare transactions, code sets, and identifiers. Basically, that was put in because they had so many different varying ones nationwide that it became almost impossible to go through the records. So they had to create a national standard for it. The privacy rule provides federal protections for the personal health information held by covered entities and gives patients an array of rights with respect to that information. It's always a good idea to know exactly what your rights are. And if you've been to a doctor's office at any point, you've had to sign a form that says, yes, I've read the rights. It's like this sheet that you have to read, and that's what they're talking about. Security rule specifies a series of administrative, physical, and technical safeguards for covered entities to use to ensure confidentiality, integrity, and availability of electronically protected health information. National identifier requirements requires that healthcare providers, health plans, and employers have standard national numbers that identify them attached to standard transactions. And then the enforcement rule provides the standards for enforcing all the administrative simplification rules. Basically, they made, instead of saying, okay, we might do this here, we might do that there, they had to say, no, this is your scale of badness. Here's what you're going to get fined. Here's your jail time. Here's your, they had to have simple rules that were being enforced so that people knew exactly what was going to happen to them. And because HIPAA and the exposure of medical records is so serious, jail time is a possibility. SOX, or the Sarbanes-Oxley Act. This was enacted in 2002 and is designed to protect investors and the public by increasing the accuracy and reliability of corporate disclosures. The key requirements and provisions of SOX are organized into 11 titles. And I'll just run through them. Public Company Accounting Oversight Board, auditor independence. Basically on that one, they didn't want auditors that were hired by the same company. So that's why they said independent. Corporate responsibility, enhanced financial disclosures, analyst conflicts of interest, commission resources and authority, studies and reports, corporate and criminal fraud accountability, white collar crime penalty enhancement, corporate tax returns, and corporate fraud accountability. Now, a lot of us should be familiar with the DMCA and FSMA, Digital Millennium Copyright Act, and the Federal Information Security Management Act. So the DMCA is United States copyright law that implements two 1996 treaties of the World Intellectual Property Organization and defines the legal prohibitions against the circumvention of technological protection measures employed by copyright owners to protect their works and against the removal or alteration of copyright management information. And then FSMA provides comprehensive framework for ensuring the effectiveness of information security controls over information resources that support federal operations and assets, which include standards for categorizing information and information systems by mission impact, standards for minimum security requirements for information and information systems, guidance for selecting appropriate security controls for information systems, guidance for assessing security controls in information systems and determining security control effectiveness, and guidance for security authorization of information systems. GDRP, this is the European Union and UK, I believe. Yes, Grumpy Cat. This was May 25th, 2018. It is the most stringent, one of the most stringent privacy and security laws globally. It levies harsh fines against those who violate its privacy and security standards, with penalties reaching millions of euros. If you do any sort of international, if you're doing any sort of data trafficking, it's always a good idea to understand GDPR. So lawfulness, fairness, and transparency. Processing must be lawful, fair, and transparent to the data subject. Purpose limitation. You must process data for the legitimate purpose specified explicitly to the data subject when you collect it. Data minimization. You should collect and process only as much data as necessary for the purpose specified. Accuracy. You must keep personal data accurate and up to date. Storage limitation, you may only store identifying data for as long as necessary for the specified purpose. Integrity and confidentiality, processing must be done in such a way as to ensure appropriate security, integrity, and confidentiality. And accountability, data controller is responsible for demolishing GDPR compliance with all these principles. We don't have this. Just an FYI. It's actually a really great thing, and it gives people a lot of power over their data, but we do not have that here in the United States. DPA is from the UK. It updates and replaces the Data Protection Act from 1998. It's an act to make provision for the regulations of the processing of information relating to individuals, to make provision in connection with information commissioners' functions under specific regulations relating to information, to make provision for direct market code of practice and connected purposes. So it protects individuals concerning processing of personal data, in particular by requiring personal data be processed lawfully and fairly based on data subjects' consent and other specified basis. Conferring rights on the data subject to obtain information about the processing of personal data and to require inaccurate personal data to be rectified, and conferring functions on the commissioner, giving the holder of that office responsibility to monitor and enforce the provisions. And if anyone's ever had to deal with our credit bureaus, it's very difficult to get inaccurate personal data rectified in the United States. It's difficult to find it. Then it's also very difficult to get it removed.
Yeah, that's why the identity theft is like the bane of existence in the US, because
Yes,
it can
because you're,
take decades for you to get
if you're
even the
lucky,
simplest
if it
things
ever even
removed.
gets taken off. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I had a buddy who they had someone run up like $6,000 in various credit cards, and the person got sent to court, convicted, and he was still having to fight to get it
Yeah.
off of his
It's-
credit registry.
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Here are some different countries. It's like a little code here, some United States ones. And you can see the different, you can go out and look at them on here. Australia has some really interesting ones if you want to look at it. The United Kingdom, China is interesting. India, Germany actually has some interesting stuff on there. They do a lot of work towards making sure their people are protected. But yeah, looking through if you want to look through all the different ones, these three tables here are very fascinating, just to see the disparity between the different
There's only one
organizations.
There's only one cyber law in China, and that is the Great Cyber Law.
Pretty much. There's the copyright law and the trademark law, and they were both written on the same day, if you look. And basically everything when it comes to China is they write the law when it comes to that, and they will censor you. It's pretty well known. It's sad, but it's true. Okay. Even though this week is on footprinting and reconnaissance for the lab, I am not going to dump 12 more sections onto you guys tonight. So that just looks painful. Okay, yep,
Can you
we're going to do
explain
the
what you want
lab.
for the lab?
We'll do the lab. The lab is super simple, so let me show you. So basically all you need to do for the lab is a basic footprint is when you go out and just Google yourself. Yeah, see here, you can see a whole bunch of people that I am not any of these people. Any of them. None of them are spelled correctly. Funny thing is my middle name is Christina, but it's not spelled like that. So it's fun to go out and look. If you're like, okay, then that's not me, then start adding things like this. And there you
Wait,
go. There's
you're
my
not
LinkedIn.
an American singer and songwriter?
Yeah, I'm definitely not American singer-songwriter. There actually used to be, and please don't go look this up. There used to be a pornographic webcam girl that had the same name that I did. Which I found out because one of my coworkers went out and found it. And I was like, oh, thanks. That's awesome. But you can see here, there's my LinkedIn. There's the article I did for Forensic Focus. And, there's these websites that you can go and look through, and some of them, yeah, that's not me. Those two are me. So you never know what's going to be out there. And sometimes you'll be hooked with people in your records that you don't want to be hooked with. So go out and see what you got, and then do a screen cap. Try to get the most, this section right here, try to get the most accurate search that you can. and do a screen cap of it. And that's what you need to turn in. I'm gonna hit stop share on there. So that's basically it. If you're one of the lucky people, I have to have an online presence for work. But if you're one of the lucky people that doesn't have that, yeah, that's another problem. You have a fairly unique name. If you're like John Smith, there are a bunch of Anna Caches. There's an Anna Cache in Idaho that's spelled differently than mine, which is why I use my middle initial on everything. So if you can't find yourself, type in as close to yourself as you can and screen cap it. That is good enough. I have had people that have had that in there. That's just fine too. That to me says, hey, I tried, but I'm not there, you know. That's fine. Yep, and you know, people frequently will spell my last name wrong. Usually I have to tell them Anna Cash, and they're like, how do you spell that? Like cash money. That usually gets spelled correctly then. I have had a couple of them put cash money, and then I have to go through all sorts of fun things for that too. So yeah, you never know how it's gonna come out. But yeah, that's all the lab is. I want you guys to go out and basically just footprint yourself. If you want to see something interesting, different search engines come up with different things. DuckDuckGo, Google, some of the other ones like that. Go out and check some of the other ones. You don't have to use Google, but Google is just the most commonly used one. So Dogpile, there you go. You can try Ask Jeeves if you really want to. I don't think that or Bing's not particularly accurate, but you never know. So yeah, go out and do that. And that is your lab for this week. Next week, we'll be installing Kali Linux, and I will ask them to actually make sure your stuff works. But mostly it's just so you guys can play around and use some stuff for steganography on Kali Linux. And then when you guys start getting your books and start getting activated, please let me know. Just so I know that it's actually getting to you guys and you're actually able to get into your ebooks and everything. Okay. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording, and I have some questions.